She whispered, "If my first love ever comes back, I'll go to him." She thought I was asleep. I heard everything, walked out without a word, and months later watched karma take him away too. My name is Noah, I'm 28, and I live in Colorado. For most of my life, I believe trust was the foundation of any relationship. Lena and I met at a friend's engagement party. She stood across the room, hair tucked behind her ear, laughing in a way that made everyone look. We started talking that night, and it felt easy. She was kind, funny, and private in a way that kept me curious. We fell into a rhythm, weekend hikes, small fights about movies, and plans for the future. Owning a place, getting a dog, and little routines that built up into a life we both pictured. We had been together almost 3 years when one Friday night changed everything. We made dinner together. The small routines felt comfortable. The way she reached for the salt, the soft music, the dim light. After dinner, she sat on the couch scrolling through her phone. I didn't think much of it until she said she was going to bed early. That wasn't like her. Usually, she stayed up with me, watching shows or talking. I followed her to the bedroom, saying I was tired. I turned onto my side and closed my eyes to pretend sleep, thinking it was one of those quiet nights. Her phone rang. She answered quietly, trying not to wake me. The voice she used sounded different, gentle and far away, like she was reaching back to something. I caught a line, "I still think about him." There was a pause, and then words that knocked the air out of me. "First love of life. You never forget. If he ever reaches out again, I'll go to him. Always." I'd forget everything and love again. Those words landed harder than anything I had expected. I lay there breathing carefully, forcing my face to stay calm while my chest tightened. She laughed softly into the phone, said something about how I wouldn't understand, then ended the call. I pretended to sleep, but sleep refused me. The road trips, the late nights, the promises, they all felt suddenly fragile. How long had she kept that place in her heart for someone else? Morning came, and she moved through the apartment like nothing had happened, making coffee and humming under her breath. For a moment, I thought about confronting her right then and there. Instead, I chose to watch. I needed to know whether that call was a single strange moment or part of a pattern. Trust felt different now. I wanted to see who she was when she believed no one was paying attention. Over the next few days, I noticed changes that made my chest ache. Her phone got a password. She stepped out of the room to take calls. Once she left her phone on the counter, and I saw a message thread labeled Ashley at the top. Lena didn't have a friend by that name. Each buzz of her device pulled at something inside me. Small habits we'd grown used to. Her laugh at a meme, the way she checked messages, became reasons to watch. I kept my voice steady when she asked if I was okay. I said, "Yeah," because there was no point in creating an argument without facts. Inside, questions spun around and around, but I kept them to myself. The silence between us thickened into a background I felt in my bones. I decided I wouldn't rush into an accusation. I would wait just long enough to see what she did next. A week later, I asked to talk about us. I kept my words measured and clear. The air between us felt heavy because nothing after that would be the same. I planned to tell her exactly what I had heard. The phone call, the promise to go back if he reached out, the laugh that made it feel certain. I wanted her to explain herself, but more than anything, I wanted to see how she would act when faced with the truth. The conversation was the hinge on which everything turned. I took a breath and stepped into it, and waited for honesty. When I finally sat her down, I tried to keep my voice calm. I didn't want to start a fight. I just wanted the truth. She looked at me with that same practiced softness she used whenever something uncomfortable came up. "Let's talk," I said. Her expression shifted, almost cautious. "About what?" "Us." She gave a small, nervous laugh. "You're scaring me a little. What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "Last Friday night, when you thought I was asleep, I heard your phone ring. I heard you talking. You said, if he ever reaches out again, I'll go to him. Always. You said he was your first love. You meant that, didn't you?" Her whole face went pale. For a few seconds, she didn't speak, just stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. "You were awake?" she finally said. "I was," I replied. She shook her head quickly, forcing a small laugh. "No, you're misunderstanding. That was just talk. I was joking with a friend." "You called him," I said quietly. "That wasn't a joke." Lena ran her fingers through her hair and sighed. "You're reading too much into it. You know how people talk about the past times. It doesn't mean I want to go back there." I stared at her, and for a moment, she couldn't meet my eyes. "Then why did you change your phone password?" I asked. "Why are you hiding messages under fake names?" Her lips parted slightly, but no answer came out. She looked cornered, not guilty, just scared that her cover had slipped. "Who's Ashley?" I asked. She blinked. "A friend from work. You told me last month you barely talked to anyone from work outside the office." Her mouth tightened. "You're overreacting, Noah. You're letting one late-night phone call mess with your head. I sat there for a moment, trying to find the right words. Everything I wanted to believe about her clashed with what I already knew. Maybe you don't love him anymore, Lena, I said softly. But you don't love me either. You love the memory of him, the idea of something you lost. I can't keep trying to compete with someone who isn't even here. She stood and grabbed my hand. Please, don't say that. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I was just emotional that night. I didn't mean it. Her eyes were glossy, but the words sounded rehearsed. I pulled my hand away gently. You meant it, even if you wish you didn't. She opened her mouth to protest, but I was done listening to explanations that changed every few seconds. There was nothing left to save if love had already been replaced by nostalgia. That night, I packed a small bag. She followed me from room to room, begging me to stay, saying we could fix it. But every apology felt smaller than the words I'd heard that night, words she could never take back. When I left the apartment, she was still standing in the doorway, crying, saying she was sorry. I didn't turn around. She called me dozens of times that weekend, texted long messages about how I'd misunderstood her, how she never meant to hurt me, how she just wanted to remember what love used to feel like. Maybe part of me wanted to believe her, but something in me whispered that she was only sorry because she got caught. I didn't block her, not yet. I wanted to see what she'd do when she realized I wasn't coming back, whether she'd fight for us or run straight to the ghost she claimed she'd left behind. That answer came sooner than I expected. I didn't hear from her for almost a week after that. The call stopped. The texts ended. The silence was strange at first, almost peaceful, but it carried this heavy sort of curiosity with it. I kept wondering what she was doing, who she was talking to now that she didn't have to hide it. One night, I was sitting on the couch in my new apartment, the kind of quiet you only get when everything familiar is gone. I was scrolling through my phone, half distracted, when a message popped up from an unknown number. Hey Noah, this is Ryan. I think we need to talk about Lena. I froze for a second, reading it again to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Ryan. That name had come up a few times in her stories. Always the one that got away. The first love. The man who, apparently, never really left her heart. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't want to respond, but curiosity pushed harder than pride. After a few minutes, I typed back. All right. When and where? He suggested a coffee shop downtown. We met the next afternoon. Ryan looked almost exactly like I imagined from old photos. Tall, relaxed, confident. He extended his hand like we were two strangers meeting for business, not two people connected by the same woman. I know this is weird, he said, settling into the chair across from me. But I figured you deserved to know the truth. I kept quiet, letting him continue. Lena reached out to me last month, he said. Said she was in a bad place. She missed how things used to be. We started talking. Nothing serious, just messages, some late-night calls. She said you two had drifted apart. My chest tightened, but I kept my expression calm. He glanced up at me. She told me you didn't understand her like I did, that you worked too much, that she felt alone. I'd heard those same words whispered during that late-night phone call when she thought I was asleep. Hearing them again, from the man she said them to, hit differently. Ryan sighed, looking uncomfortable now. I didn't know she was still with you. She told me you guys had broken up months ago. I found out the truth only after you left. I leaned back in my chair, letting the words settle. The strange thing was, I didn't feel angry anymore. Just tired. She said that. I asked quietly. He nodded. Yeah. I only figured it out when a mutual friend mentioned you two were still living together. That's when I told her I was done. I didn't want to be part of it. I studied him for a moment. He didn't look smug or defensive, just frustrated, maybe even a little sad. I don't know what she's looking for, he said after a pause. She told me she misses how I made her feel, but I don't think it's really about me. She just wants to feel that first love rush again. The attention, the excitement. Not the actual person. That hit deeper than I expected, because it sounded exactly right. We talked for another few minutes, mostly quietly. Before we left, he said, for what it's worth, you seem like a good guy. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I thanked him and walked out, the cold air cutting across my face. On the drive home, everything felt clearer. The anger that had been building turned into something sharper, understanding. Lena hadn't been holding onto a person. She'd been holding onto a feeling. She didn't want Ryan. She wanted to relive a version of herself from a time that felt simpler. That realization didn't make it hurt less, but it helped me see her for who she really was. 2 days later, I heard a knock on my door. When I opened it, she was standing there, hair messy, makeup streaked, eyes red from crying. Noah, she whispered. Please, can we talk? I didn't move. I know I hurt you, she said. But I swear, I told Ryan it's over. I just want us again. Her voice cracked, but I could tell it wasn't from guilt. It was from fear of being alone. And that's when I knew this conversation wasn't about love. It was about control. I let her in anyway, not to fix things, but to finally end them right. She walked in slowly, like she was afraid of what she'd see. I didn't offer her a seat, but she sat down on the couch anyway, clutching her hands together. The air felt heavier than it should have. She started speaking before I could say a word. Noah, I know I messed up. I shouldn't have reached out to him. I don't know, I felt lost. Everything between us got so quiet, and I thought maybe talking to someone who once understood me would help. I stayed still, leaning against the wall. Her words came out rehearsed, like she'd gone over them 100 times on the drive here. So you called the one person who made you doubt us? I asked quietly. Her eyes flickered toward the floor. It wasn't about him. It was about me. I wanted to remember how love used to feel before everything got complicated. You've been so focused on everything else lately, and I felt invisible. I nodded slowly. So you tried to find yourself by reaching back to your past? She swallowed hard. I know it sounds stupid, but yes. I thought maybe if I could talk to him, I'd understand what I was missing. But it only made me realize that I love you. I don't want him. I want us. Her voice softened on that last word. Us. Like it was supposed to fix everything. I looked at her carefully. The woman sitting in front of me wasn't the same person I thought I knew. The charm, the laughter, the warmth, they were still there, but the sincerity was gone. What I saw now was someone who didn't understand what love really was. Do you even know why this hurts? I said quietly. It's not just because you talked to him. It's because, for you, love is something that fades and comes back when you feel lonely. But for me, it's something I show up for every day, even when it's hard. She looked up, eyes red and tired. I can change, Noah. I'll go to therapy. I'll delete every contact if you want. I swear, I'll do whatever it takes. Her voice cracked again, but I could tell she still didn't understand. She thought love was about fixing what got broken instead of not breaking it in the first place. I shook my head. You didn't lose me because you loved him. You lost me because you never learned what love actually means. That stopped her. For a moment, she didn't speak at all. Then she whispered, You're really done, aren't you? I nodded. Yeah, I can't keep loving someone who keeps one foot in the past. She stood up slowly, tears starting to fall, and reached for my hand. I stepped back. There wasn't any anger left in me, just a calm kind of acceptance. This isn't fixable, Lena, I said. You can't build a future when half your heart still lives somewhere else. She covered her face and started crying harder. I wanted to feel sorry for her, but I couldn't. The person I had loved wasn't the one in front of me anymore. Maybe she never really was. When she realized I wasn't going to change my mind, she whispered a quiet goodbye and walked out. The sound of the door closing behind her was small, but final. I stood there for a long time, listening to the quiet that followed. That night, I blocked her number for good. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. The next morning, the apartment felt lighter, like someone had opened a window. There was no closure, no clean ending, just peace. And peace was enough. But a few months later, I found out how her story ended, and that peace turned into something else, something closer to understanding. A few months passed quietly after that night. I focused on myself, getting back into a normal rhythm, spending time alone without feeling lonely. I didn't check her social media or ask about her through mutual friends. I just let time do what it always does, dull the noise. Then one afternoon, while scrolling aimlessly through Facebook, a photo stopped me. It was Lena. She was standing next to Ryan, both smiling, his arm around her waist. The caption read, Sometimes, first love finds its way back. For a few seconds, I just stared at it. No anger, no heartbreak, just a strange kind of relief. It was like watching the final piece of a puzzle fall into place. She didn't choose him over me. She chose the idea she'd never let go of. The fantasy of comfort. The thrill of something old pretending to feel new. I closed the app, sat back, and realized something. She hadn't betrayed me because she loved him more. She betrayed me because she didn't understand what love really was. To her, it wasn't a steady flame. It was a spark she kept chasing, no matter how many times it burned out. I didn't tell anyone about the photo. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to explain. Weeks later, a mutual friend mentioned her name in passing. Did you hear about Lena and Ryan? They asked. I shook my head. Apparently, Ryan had broken up with her. He'd found out she was texting another guy, someone from her gym. I didn't react right away, but a quiet thought crossed my mind. Karma doesn't rush, but it never forgets. That night, I sat on my balcony watching the city lights fade into darkness, thinking about everything that had happened. It wasn't satisfaction I felt, just closure. The kind that doesn't come from revenge, but from understanding. Because the truth was simple, Lena didn't choose him out of love. She chose him because she couldn't stand being alone. And when that relationship lost its excitement, she did what she always did. She reached for the next distraction. Some people aren't loyal to people, they're loyal to feelings. And when those feelings fade, they move on, without realizing they're the reason it keeps happening. I wasn't perfect either. Maybe I missed signs. Maybe I held on to someone who was already halfway gone. But I also learned something deeper. That love isn't about grand gestures or constant excitement. It's about showing up even when things feel ordinary. It's about choosing someone every day, not just when it feels new. Lena never learned that lesson. And maybe she never will. Now, when friends ask why I'm single, I just smile and say, because I'd rather wait for something real than fall for another ghost. Sometimes at night, I think back to that evening, the one where I pretended to be asleep. If I could change it, I wouldn't. It hurt, yes, but it also woke me up. It showed me that love built on illusions will always collapse under truth. And the truth is, peace feels better than being half-loved.